Fantasy. As always, Wake Jotkins here, Chris Alamo, Meerkat, founding father of the Dart of the Day. Man, guys, what a week of football. I mean, it was a good weekend of fun football for the most part. I think we didn't get as much fantasy points out of the Ravens-Bills game as we all thought we would. 20 points. It didn't even get halfway to the over-under. They had it 49.5 where it ended. Not the only shocking thing, obviously, because all of us had some value plays. We tweeted out our value graphics. We'll talk about some of the things that we thought would happen, what we think went wrong, and if maybe that'll change how we attack this week. And I'll go first. This is a safe space, guys. We can be ourselves here. We can talk about our grievances. And Drew Brees, God, you're bad at football now, and it's sad. It's sad. I mean, no one. I pardon my take. Big Cat said it the best. I don't think anybody maybe means more to an individual city in the NFL than Drew Brees has meant to New Orleans. Great guy, for the but no.
The time has come.
He had this come in. He lost his moxie. Michael Thomas was running slant routes the entire day and couldn't get open on any of them. Russ Cockrell stopped Michael Thomas and kept him to no catches. So I feel like it was the right process for me to go after the Bucs with Breeze and Michael Thomas, just because the secondary has been a little suspect throughout the year, but they came to play in the playoffs. Respect where it's due. Respect to former Bill Russ Cockrell. And I'll be honest, it is pushing me a little bit off of attacking the Tampa Bay secondary this week.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm a little scared of that. Do you guys, we'll get into all the players and everything as we usually do, but are you guys, as a teaser, Chris, are you afraid of attacking Tampa Bay secondary with Aaron Rodgers going after him this week?
Outside of Devontae Adams, I'm never going to be scared to play Devontae Adams, but outside of that, yeah, I'm very scared.
Mm-hmm.
Tunyon,
Funyuns.
they're just so good at defense. Yeah, Tunyon Funyuns. They're just so good at defense. I'm not gonna touch them. Devontae Adams is matchup proof, I believe, but outside of that, Rodgers is a stud. We all know that.
Of course, yeah.
But I don't know, man. They looked good last week.
Yeah, Meerkat, are you afraid of going after the Bucs secondary too?
Not this week. Now with Rodgers, I love Rodgers. Do you remember last week who had Drew Brees as their 8th ranked quarterback? Hand up, it was me. I'm not afraid of Brees anymore. I like that Tampa defense. I respect them, but they've been a little shaky this year, and I didn't think Drew Brees was going to be the one to break them. But Aaron Rodgers very well could be your NFL MVP. He's incredible. He's a lot more there right now physically than Drew Brees, and he has been on fire. He can absolutely pack that defense. I like him a lot this week.
And who didn't work out for you? I know both of you were pretty big on the Browns this past week. Is that where you're going with the value that maybe didn't work out the best, Meerkat?
Yeah, 100%. I'm sorry, guys. Austin Hooper got cucked by David and Njoku. It was terrible. I loved Hooper. I love the value there. But you give him 16 yards on 3 targets. Sure, he made a really cool catch, but Njoku behind him gets 5 targets, 4 of them catches, gets 60 yards there, absolutely crushes Hooper there.
And do you think that was more a statement about the state of tight ends for fantasy, or, obviously Hooper's not in the playoffs this week, so we don't have to worry about this happening again, but is it about how tight ends are just so volatile, or was it more just... Yeah.
That's the thing, it's just tight ends are so weird, and that's why I said my only anchor play all last week was going to be Kelsey, where he still didn't, absolutely light it up or anything. But there's just not a ton of consistency from the tight end position. There's guys who are going to average good points throughout the season. Mm-hmm. Others are going to be boom or bust guys a lot of the time, where they're on a couple weeks, off a couple weeks. And you just got to find those guys who are very stable. And trying to find value in tight ends tough in DFS, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's almost impossible in regular season leagues. So in DFS, when Lee Smith can catch a touchdown and hit value, it's pretty bad too. Chris, I know you and Meerkat, like I said, were both pretty high on the Browns last week. Who's a value that you saw maybe from that or another game that didn't quite live up to the hype?
Right, I could have easily picked Austin Hooper too. I was just as high on him.
Yeah,
that was, but I I mean, for FanDuel, I think Jarvis Landry, he had 7 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown. I was honestly expecting him to do a lot more than that.
Yeah.
For DraftKings, that's pretty good because set point per catch is pretty good, but on FanDuel, it's half PPR. So I had him as my 4th receiver on the week. I think that I was expecting a lot more than him, so I'm gonna take the heat for that one.
Yeah, I'm happy I didn't listen to you guys on him. I did fall for the Ooper Scooper. I did have him in all my lineups, and because of that, some guy named Stevie Richardson, congrats to him being our first winner of our DFS contest. We're going to do another one this week, both on FanDuel, both on DraftKings, so make sure you guys get into that. Obviously, that'll be for the games this weekend, so we'll get into that. We'll do things a little bit differently this week. Instead of going game by game, since we only have 2, we're going to go quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and end on defense because this week it really doesn't matter. There's just probably 2 defenses you don't want to take, if you're asking me. Before we get into all the action for this weekend, do got to remind you guys, we are sponsored by Picasso's Pizza. I'm getting some shipped to me for AFC Championship or Conference Championship Sunday, and oh my God, guys, I am so excited. You can get it shipped to you too. They deliver nationwide. Obviously, they deliver throughout the Buffalo area. They're also open for takeout. Please support our good friends at Picasso's. Now's the time to support local businesses. I've had 1 sip of White Claw, and clearly that was too much for me. So I'm going to stop talking. Meerkat, we'll start with you. How do you view the quarterback position this week for DFS?
I think it's a little volatile with the Mahomes situation there because I'm not sure on FanDuel, but Mahomes is pretty clearly the most expensive quarterback still on DraftKings with that questionable status. You got Mahomes at 7,600, then Allen at 6,900, Rodgers at 65. So that price tag scares me up, Mahomes, with the question marks because I think he's good to go. I think he's going to play. There's no way they've marched Chad Henne out in this game. They're going to figure out a way, but it's not just the concussion or whatever, their class nerve choke out, whatever. He's got that turf toe too, and you saw it affect him on a few plays last week there. So that's something to watch for. He's still Patrick Mahomes, but Buffalo's defense is no joke. That secondary has been making up bad plays with great plays here and there throughout the season. So it's an interesting matchup to see because the first matchup, they just ran the ball. We didn't get to see a ton of Mahomes, but I really think Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers are pretty interchangeable at 1 and 2 this week. Like I said, Rodgers doesn't scare me on that against that Tampa Bay defense this week. It doesn't scare me that much. And Allen, I'm not saying he's going to be insane, but I don't see him having a low week like he did last week. I think he's in charge of the Bills' rushing attack again, and I see him having a good day. I love Allen to just step it up. And with the price tags for Allen and Rodgers, I think they're a great pivot off Mahomes. And Brady at 4th there doesn't mean I hate Brady, but I just think this is a great crop of quarterbacks this week, and he's sitting at the bottom of it.
Yeah, I have Brady down at the bottom too, and it's not because Brady's not going to do well against Green Bay. I mean, I didn't think he would do well against New Orleans, so I'm not going to count him out anymore. I'm not going to almost walk away from the show because of it either. I understand he's still a good quarterback. It is what it is. But, you saw what Cam Akers did against the Packers. 90 yards, plus yards, and a touchdown. Ran for a 2-point conversion, I'm pretty sure, too. He looks good, and that's the Packers' run game is part of why he looks so good because they've just been so bad all year. Like we talked about some of the players they have on defense last week. Say we like them. They do have some name guys on that defense who should be contributing to the run stopping, but they're just not really doing it. So I think that if Tampa Bay is going to win that game, yes, remember they blew the Packers out earlier in the season. I think it's going to be more based off of the run game, more Ronald Jones, more Leonard Fournette, both of whom looked pretty good. Ronald Jones was a little more efficient, but Leonard Fournette had more of those like big chunk plays. So, we'll talk more about the running back there, but I think both of them are going to be viable this week. Whereas Tom Brady, like we said last week, still have Jair Alexander and the Packers, so I'm really not a fan of throwing Brady out there this week. And I'm a huge fan of throwing Josh Allen out. Like that game, even if Mahomes is out, there's still going to be a lot of scoring in that game. And I know that the Bills are going to have to do everything in their power to keep up. And seeing as Josh Allen isn't even the most expensive quarterback on this slate, he's actually the 3rd most behind Mahomes and Rodgers. I think he's the clear-cut option for QB1 this week. Chris is nodding his head, so I'll pass this off to him. How are you looking at the this position this week?
Josh Allen's my number one quarterback on the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
followed by I haven't followed by Mahomes, Rodgers, Brady.
Mm-hmm.
Reason being is because if I think that Allen's going to put up 25, 30 points, and the Chiefs aren't schmucks, they're gonna keep up with us. It's gonna be a close game,
Yeah.
no matter what. I don't see anybody getting blown out in this game. If I think Josh Allen's gonna have the game of his life, and when I tell you the game of his life, I mean it. I think he's gonna have the game of his life. So I think he's ready for this game. I think that at 1,600 or 16,000 on FanDuel, 500 less than Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he is the clear-cut number one, especially because last time they ran the ball down our throats. I think we're going to have a similar game plan this week to prevent him just airing it out. And I think that turf toe and that spinal had
whatever it is.
It's going to affect him to the point where they're going to have to change the game. They're going to have to change their game plan, I think, to not coddle, but to formulate around what Mahomes can do at this point, because a lot of his game is getting out of the pocket, extending plays, and finding the open guy. If he can't do that, especially against an elite defense, passing defense, what the Buffalo has.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen's the clear-cut number one for me this week.
Yeah, and it's not saying that Mahomes is bad, like you just said. It's just like you saw him missing throws left and right last week to open receivers, and it was because of the turf toe. It was before the concussion happened, before he got knocked out of the game. So even if Mahomes is deemed active, even early in the week, let's say Friday comes around and he's already, they already say he's going to play, which I don't think that'll happen. I think it'll be a Sunday decision, a game time decision. But it's either way. I don't think he's going to be as effective. But he's still Patrick Mahomes, so that's not saying the Bills are going to blow him out in the game. That's just saying for fantasy purposes, they might lean more on Darrell Williams, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if he's healthy, to get the job done against the Bills. And that wraps up the quarterback position. I will just say this real quickly because I'm stuttering because I don't know if I want to talk about it. If Henny's playing, is there any interest at 6,500? Is there any interest at all? Maybe tournaments, maybe.
I think there is.
Yeah.
For me, 6,500 is. Wait, you said 6,500?
Okay. I did want to say this actually because there are different kinds of tournaments, different kinds of contests for this week because there are only 2 games. So some of these prices we'll refrain from using prices. We'll just talk about them relative to other players, just because obviously in 5-person contests, all of the prices are inflated as opposed to in the 9-person lineups. So. Henny is, no matter what, a significant discount. I'm guessing in the 5-person contest he's closer to like 8,000 or 9,000 just because we already know he might be starting. But you say you don't hate him just because of what? Because of everybody else you could fit in your lineup?
Because I learned my lesson. I faded Jared Goff. How many points did he have that one week when he was? He paid off. I don't remember exactly how many points he had, but. There's just so many good skill players this week with Stephon Diggs. I don't know what slate, but Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Pretty Common.
Yeah.
There's so many Travis Kelce. There's so many skill players that I think that if Henny can throw a touchdown or 2, maybe run one in, and he can put 20 points up, you're right where you have to be. You're right in striking distance, I think. Yeah. But I'm always going to go with Josh just because. Who I am, but if I had to make room, I would not fade Henny just because his name's Henny.
And Meerkat, you clearly disagree with us, so state your case.
I mean, I'm a value hunter, especially a quarterback or the big money positions. But on DraftKings, they're not giving you that big of a discount for Henny. Right now, he's at 5,000. That's only 1,100 less than Tom Brady. I think the difference there is worth $1,100, and it's not just because I hate Henny. He's a decent backup quarterback. He's in the position he is for a reason. Yeah. Even though Jordan Tiamamu should be above him, their third stringer, XFL guy. Shout out to my XFL guys.
Yes, sir.
But he's not the worst play in the world. Buffalo's secondary, popular to contrary belief, is pretty beatable. They're middle of the pack when it comes to like yardage and stuff, and they get beat here and there, and it happens. And, especially how they game plan a game, sometimes they sell out a bit here or there. So, if Henny's under center, they're going to sell out the run. They're going to load the box. They have a talented group of receivers, so they could break a few things. We'll see how that ends up playing out. If he is the starter and they announce that like Friday or Saturday, not a game time thing, I'll probably play him in a tournament or two. But just on DraftKings, it's not that much of a discount.
Yeah, and if you are playing multiple tournaments or multiple cash games or whatever, like definitely diversify. Don't enter the same lineup in a bunch of different places. That one, it's kind of cheating. It's like kissing your sister. It's not good. It's more fun to just maybe figure out. Hey, yeah, you know what? I'll do a random lineup with Chad Henne, a lot with Josh Allen, maybe do some Aaron Rodgers just to pivot a little bit. And it'll make your Sunday a lot more interesting, let me tell you. I've been doing FanDuel for many, many years now, and that's one thing that always keeps it interesting. It always knows how to surprise me, Moving on to running backs, I already talked about the Chiefs running backs, so I'll start with them personally. If Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't a go this week, I really, really, really like Darrell Williams. I'm not going to knock Edwards-Helaire, but he didn't have as good of a rookie season as people may have expected him to. He was kind of overshadowed and I remember Chris and I talked about this at the beginning of the year. He was kind of overshadowed by like the James Robinsons, the Jonathan Taylors, some other rookies, Justin Jefferson, receiver, but still other rookies who performed way better. Now, did he gash us when we played them earlier in the year? Absolutely, but we weren't 100% healthy. It was right after that Titans game. It was a weird couple weeks for the Bills. So I feel better. I honestly feel like he and Darrell Williams are almost like the same player. And if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is out, that just means all the touches are going to be funneled to Darrell Williams. If Edwards-Helaire is healthy and he's playing, then it's going to be a split, and I don't really want to touch either of them. That's just me personally. Chris, mentioned you already because you and I talked about fantasy running backs a lot this year. How do you feel about the Chiefs guys?
If Clyde's playing, I think that we're gonna run we're definitely not gonna run the same game plan that we did last time.
Yeah,
Frazier are too smart for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's gonna be similar. I mean, we played our work. I'm gonna say it. We played probably one of our worst games of the season. Those two games against the Titans and the Kansas City Chiefs.
You're right.
Allen had a separated left shoulder. I know it's not his right arm, but it does affect throwing motion.
Absolutely.
Didn't have Matt
Tremaine Edmonds too.
Yeah, and Matt Milano.
We didn't have Tremaine or Matt Milano.
And didn't we not have... Yeah, exactly. There you go. Mm-hmm.
So, we played our worst game of the season and lost by 9 points.
To the defending Super Bowl champions, by the way.
The defending Super Bowl champs. Everyone says we got smoked. Okay.
We did. It's a fact.
Our worst game of the season against them.
Mm-hmm.
We're 3-0 with Matt Milano, or whatever. However many Matt Milano played, or he didn't play. We lost.
Yeah.
2 games without Matt Milano. Every game Matt Milano played, we won every single game. So
yeah,
the guy is a certified stud. He's not the whole defense, obviously,
but he's handsome as hell. So
and that had a lot to do with them running all over us. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. It had a lot to do with it. I am probably going to fade Clyde Edwards-Helaire this week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to fade the Kansas City running backs just because coming off of we were playing against the best run offense in the NFL.
True.
In my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
We just completely stuffed them. So I think that I have a good feeling about this week. I don't know. I have a good feeling about this week.
Well, if you're not going there for running back, where are you looking?
I had a dream Devin Singletary scored the second touchdown, so I think that I'm gonna go ahead and put Devin in my lineup.
I already clipped that, so the interns already clipped that, so we can post it as soon as Devin Singletary scores the second touchdown. Meerkat, how are you feeling about the running backs in the AFC Championship?
I don't love anything really.
Yeah.
I'm a little different than you guys on Edwards-Helaire. I think if he's healthy, he needs to be practicing by Friday, full participant, because he's been limited. Last week he was limited on Wednesday like he was today, and then didn't practice the rest of the week. So he needs to get to practice this next 2 days. And I'm going to be taking some looks at him, honestly, not just based off of what he did against the Bills. He had a decent year, but he's become a good receiver for them, too. He's had almost 60 targets this season, which isn't bad for a rookie running back.
That's
in
actually
a crowded
kind of a lot.
backfield. And I think he only has like 38 catches maybe on those 56 targets or something. I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a guy that if Mahomes is a little banged up, he's going to be dumping the ball out of the backfield, getting the ball in the flat there. He's going to be the safety blanket. And that full point PPR, man, feed it to me with the running backs. I'm looking for the running backs who are going to get their receptions. Singletary disappointed the hell out of me last week, I won't lie. And it's not his fault. He just wasn't involved in the game plan. We were kind of playing behind a lot of the game. Then we just started throwing. Josh was our leading rusher, all of that, whatever.
Of course, yeah, the usual.
So, yeah. And then, other than that, Darrell Williams, like you guys said, if Alaire's not going, play the hell out of Darrell Williams for sure. I'm not touching Le'Veon Bell at all. And, TJ Yeldon, I said it last week, he did nothing. I might take another look this week. We're going to have to see how that running back situation plays out, what the Bills are going to be running into that game with.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Freeman finally gets some touches this week. I don't know. It'd be nice to see him activated. What were you going to say, Chris?
I was going to say the same exact thing.
Man, I'm not shocked. Moving into the other game, the early game for the weekend for running backs, the Packers-Bucks. I already said I like Fournette and Jones. It's kind of just a gamble, though. Like, you kind of just got to flip a coin, decide which one you're going to play. Jones was more efficient on his touches, but they were throwing Fournette out there to run out the clock a little bit more just because he is better in some of those shorter yardage situations. Also popped off a few pretty decent, like 6 to 8 yard runs. He didn't look bad. It was probably maybe his best game of the season last week, to be completely honest. So, Tampa Bay running backs. Are either of you jumping the gun, locking, fading? Like, any of you feel passionate about it?
It's depend. I like Fournette a lot. I'm going to be playing Fournette this week, and that doesn't really matter on Ronald Jones' status. I like Ronald Jones. He's a guy I played this year a decent amount. Did well for me when I played him. But Fournette, that uptick in carries in the playoffs so far, getting 19 carries against the Washington football team, 17 last week. He's got 10 targets over those games, too. He's being heavily involved in this offense, giving himself a little bit of a, comeback story here. He was quiet at the end of the regular season for him. After everything that happened with the Jaguars and stuff, I think the Bruce Arians offense is a great fit for him. Looks like he's finally being utilized how he should be. I love Fournette this week. Now,
how much more expensive is Fournette than Jones? Because on FanDuel, the price difference is astounding. It's $1,600 in the 9-person lineup.
It's $600.
That's it? Okay, see, that's the difference here, is that Fournette, you really are paying a lot more for a running back that might see equal touches to Ronald Jones. So, on DraftKings, you don't really have to worry about that as much, which is nice.
You got to keep an eye on Jones' status this week because he was still limited today in practice, and running backs are one of those positions that if they're limited the whole week, that means they're going to be, but they're active. They are going to be second fiddle, even if they are a big-time guy. It's just one of those trends you see with injury reports and running backs. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, Jones he did have 13 rushing attempts and a target that he didn't get the catch on. Last week. And that was after a week where he was questionable and limited all week. So I feel like he might get some more usage this week, and we might see them, honestly, both get about 18 touches or so. Just because, that's the weakness of the Packers' defense is the run game, as we said. Chris, how do you feel about, and we can bring Aaron Jones into the discussion too, Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette, and Ronald Jones?
I just want to touch on Robert Jones real quick. He did have, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was out of halftime. He had like a 45-yard run that called back for holding.
That's right.
If that didn't happen, we might be, singing a different tone to Ronald Jones.
True.
That being said, I have Aaron Jones as my number 1 running back and Fournette as my number 2 running back.
Wow.
So I think that I'm going to lean towards Leonard Fournette just because he's the hot hand. If Ronald Jones wasn't questionable, he would definitely be in the conversation. I'm just going to ride the hot horse at this point. I mean, playoff Lenny. I'm going to ride playoff Lenny at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They scare me. I hate when I have to, that's why this year I didn't draft either of them just because I had no idea what was really going to happen. Of course. And Aaron Jones, I mean, we saw what they did to Alvin Kamara last week. He didn't have an awful game, but it wasn't good. And I think Alvin Kamara is a much better running back than Aaron Jones, to be completely honest. So I don't love Aaron Jones this week just because you do have to pay up for him. I feel like I'd rather go up and have like the way I have it in my lineup right now, Josh Allen, Devontae Adams, and Travis Kelce all in my lineup right now, and sacrificing Aaron Jones a little bit. So that's kind of how I feel on him. He's not like a home run, but maybe cash games he might be a little bit better. Meerkat, how are you on Jonesy Burger?
See, I hate the running backs this week other than Fournette, but Jones is still my number one just because of consistency and question marks pretty much with every single running back below him for this week on slate. It's not a great crop to pick from. Jones is just a consistent guy even when he goes against good defenses. His bad games, DFS-wise, aren't even that awful. You look at, his worst 2 games over the past 8 weeks or so, where he gets only like 40-ish rushing yards, he's still getting 4 catches for 30 yards, 5 catches for 43 yards. So he's contributing and making his contributions other ways than just on the ground. On games, he is weak on the ground. I think he is the number 1 running back just because of consistency, like I said. But looking in that Green Bay backfield, a sleeper I do like this week is Jamal Williams. I don't hate him at all. He's a change of pace for them. He's been stepping it up for them when they need him. And he has his spurts with games. You saw him last week against the Rams. He had 12 for 65, no targets or anything. He's not going to be your pass catcher, but he's a guy who, if Jones isn't getting it done between the tackles against a tough Tampa front 7, then they might switch out, start running a lot of Jamal Williams just to get that change of pace in there. And if he's going, they're going to keep riding him like they do at times. So Jamal Williams at a $4,400 price tag, one of the cheaper guys who I don't hate in a weird slate of running backs.
Yeah, and A.J. Dillon is questionable this week, and that was going to be my rebuttal to that, but he was limited today. Jamal Williams also questionable, but he was not. He was also limited today, actually. So keep an eye on those guys. If one or the other would not be active, then whoever's actually going to be on the roster for Sunday is a very, very good look. Just as a change of pace type guy, those thumper type running backs, Jamal Williams is really just a Walmart brand of LeGarrette Blount. They fare a little bit better against Tampa Bay than more traditional runners who don't catch the ball. And you can count on Aaron Rodgers to throw to those running backs too. He has shown a lot of trust in A.J. Dillon over the end of the season, which was kind of interesting to see. So definitely keep an eye on those guys for sleepers, if there is a sleeper for running back this week, because like Meerkat said, it's ugly. It's really, really ugly. We'll move into wide receiver just because it's a lot prettier than the running backs this week. I do have Devontae Adams as my number 1. I have Stephon Diggs as my number 3. It's just Kansas City's pass defense is good. It is actually really, really good. Like, give credit to it. They do. It's kind of. We said last week that the Ravens kind of played into the Bills' strengths a little bit because we could pass all over them. This week it's a little bit of a different story because the Chiefs played into the Browns' strengths, where the Browns were able to run it a lot really, really well with them, and it took some really actually impressive throws from Baker to get the ball down the field. And credit where it's due to Baker. He did everything he could have on Sunday to win that game for the Browns. He really, really did. I know you guys talked about him as possibly playing him last week, and he turned out to be a not awful value. But I think this Kansas City secondary is enough to scare me off of Stephon Diggs just because John Brown is almost $3,000 cheaper on FanDuel. I think if you look at what number 2 receivers have done to the Chiefs, it's a lot better than what number 1 receivers have done. If you look at tight ends, it's even more. So this could be the week we see Stephon Diggs not hit 100 receiving yards. And I hate to say that as a Diggs truther. I've wanted him on the Bills for years, and I was thrilled when we finally got him. But this might be the week if there was one to fade. Chris, you're nodding. Do you somewhat agree, or are you mad at me?
I'm not mad. I think Diggs is number 1, though.
Really? Okay, interesting. Why so?
Diggs is number 1. Rewatching that game when we played Kansas City, Diggs did get behind that defense. Joshua just wasn't hitting the throws. I don't know if it had to do with his shoulder.
Yeah.
I remember specifically betting on Diggs getting over 5.5 catches, or I think it was 5.5 catches. He got 6.
Oh,
I remember specifically it was like 5.5 catches or something.
Yeah.
He did end up getting 6, but an underwhelming performance. I have him as number 1 just because I think that they're going to pull out all the stops. He's had those 100-yard games. Could be one of the first receivers to have 6 catches, 100 yards. Don't quote me on that. In 6, 7 straight games or something, and maybe in the playoffs and everything. But I have him as number 1 just because I love that Tampa Bay defense. Devonta Adams, I mean, they could be interchangeable. Diggs is 1,000 less than Devonta Adams. The man just proves it every single week, and I'm just going to keep riding him. I'm just going to keep riding him at this point.
It is fun. I know earlier this year I tweeted that the top 3 quarterback wide receiver duos in the NFL were Rodgers, Adams, Allen, Diggs, and Mahomes Hill in no order. And it's just great to see all of them in the playoffs at the same time, along with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers receivers, who are all super good and are all kind of discounted this week because of injury, to be completely honest. Evans, Godwin, and Brown are all questionable.
I want to say that Beasley was open a lot last week, and he just didn't get the ball.
Yeah.
I like Beasley a lot. He's my second Bills receiver that comes up. He's at my number 6. But when coming in about Scott Win in front of Antonio Brown. So he was open, man. I was listening to Diggs' Diggs was talking on Zoom, and he was like, Bees was open, but he cares more about the team winning than getting the ball. I think he's going to get the ball this week.
Yeah, and take note, he was not on the Bills' first injury report today, which is huge. He's going to be fully healthy for this game. Meerkat, we kind of literally just said almost every wide receiver that you could imagine for this weekend. So, start with the big 3, Adams, Hill, and Diggs. Who do you like and who are you fading?
I am kind of fading Tyreek a little bit, honestly. He's a boomer bust guy, and that's the thing. Like I said earlier, Bill's secondary could be. I love Trey White to death, but he's not actually been that great this year outside of the turnovers, which the second half turnovers he creates, incredible, makes up for it all. I'm not chirping him at all right now. Please, don't yell at me, people. But he could be. It's not that I hate Hill this week. It's just the whole Mahomes situation, and it just scares me. And plus, the Bills' defense has been making big plays when it needs to. But when you look at the top 3 I have right now, it's Adams number 1. I think he's by far and away the safest option this week.
Absolutely.
The safest big play anchor option this week, 100% Devontae Adams. I do have Diggs too. And Chris, I was trying to look up the stat real quick. You were trying to figure out, because I saw that too. He's the first player ever with 7 catches in a certain amount of games throughout the whole season. And it's just the consistency basis with him. Diggs is going to get the targets where you'll see Beasley not get the targets or Brown not get the targets sometime, and Davis sprinkled in here and there. Diggs is just that consistent with the targets. His relationship with Allen is transcendent above most, quarterback wide receiver duos. So I trust in that, even with the matchup, because Casey, that secondary scares me. I'm not fading Brown and Beasley this week, but I have them a little lower than I usually would have, just because they are a very physical secondary. You get a guy like Breland who will just knock you out at the line within those 5-yard bubbles and stuff. And they're a talented secondary with Tyrann Mathieu, Ward, a few other guys I like. But we're trying to find some value here, which I love to do, I got 2 guys I am looking at. One in this game, I have him right now as my 9th-ranked receiver, is Mecole Hardman. Guy I was heavy in before this season. Bought into him in all my season-long fantasy stuff. Didn't exactly deliver the way I thought, but he's just a speedster. He's a guy you can get it to him short, and he can do stuff with it. He can burn you down the field, down the sideline. You saw last week, he had 58 yards, but 42 of them came on 1 catch. He gets rushing attempts, too, and makes a lot of them. He's had 35, 11, 24 in 3 of his last 4 games on the ground. As long as he doesn't fumble the ball, he'll stay on the field and be a part of that offense. That's important. So I like Mecole Hardman being so cheap. And the guy I brought up last week, another guy who saved me in leagues this year, especially my Dynasty League, was Allen Lazard, and I love him again this week. He's not as a big play threat as Marquise Valdes-Scantling, which is, MVS isn't a bad play, but he's a dude, boomer bust. I've been bringing that up a lot today because you get a lot of that in this slate. Lazard's a little more consistent than that. He dealt with injuries a lot this year. but a younger guy that a lot of people didn't know a ton about before this year. He's been good. Comes in last week. He only catches 4 of his 8 targets, but he gets 96 yards. He had that 58-yard one. Just looked good. He's a guy who might be a little undervalued with a price tag at what is he at DraftKings? 4,200. So he's cheaper than John Brown, Antonio, all the Tampa guys and stuff. Not cheapest on the board, but actually like.
Yeah, I'm a lot to unpack there. I'll start on Rashad Breeland to start with there.
Yeah.
I'm not totally afraid of him. He's super physical, and there are 2 stats on him. One will scare you away from him, and one will make you want to go at him like crazy. So in the first 16 games, and I'm only counting the 16 because week 17 they rested all their starters. Rashad Breeland allowed only 5.8 yards per target. Super, super low number. Like, that's a great, great number for a cornerback to have. But also, he allowed a touchdown every 9.5 targets. So, I kind of... And he's the guy that's going to see John Brown the most. Because John Brown he's the guy who usually goes on the number 2 receiver for the other team. So I really, really like John Brown to get into the end zone this weekend. So, I'm going to go... I do actually have John Brown higher than Cole Beasley in my rankings this week, just because of that matchup there. Okay, yeah, there we go. So beautiful. But I feel like I have them both a little bit higher than maybe where you do overall. You said you have them ranked lower than usual, but that's not me coming at you.
Yeah, Brown at 6 and Beasley at 10. I mean, so not,
Yeah,
I do like Brown this week.
Yeah, I have Brown at 5. Where did you say, Chris?
I have Beasley at 6, John Brown at 9.
Okay, yeah. So just like the value that John Brown is going to get me going at that specific cornerback really, really kind of gets me excited. 100% on the same page with you on Devontae Adams, 110%. And Tyreek Hill. I don't want any part of Tyreek Hill. We held him like 3 catches for 22 yards or something like that in the first game we played him when our defense wasn't fully out there. Chris, how do you feel about Hill? Because he's probably going to be a popular play this week.
I put him at 3 just because of the name brand, but he's not. I don't think he's going to touch my lineups. If I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have him at 3 because I can't not have him.
Yes.
3 personally,
Mm-hmm.
but just because I have him at 3 doesn't mean he's going to be in my lineup.
Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing that people are wondering what to do this week is with the Tampa receivers. And, it's just they use them all very, very differently. The only time that Mike Evans has ever really shadowed is when Marshawn Lattimore is playing him, and that's just because they hate each other. So, Chris, we'll start with you. Do you have a preference between Godwin, Evans, and Brown? Throw Scotty Miller in there too, I guess?
Mike Evans 4, Godwin 5, Brown 7, Scotty Miller 10.
Okay.
So, I mean, I like Mike Evans. I mean, I don't know if Jair Alexander is going to be shadowing him.
I can't imagine so. I don't think, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think. I like Mike Evans. He has had an amazing season. I mean, would he have 5 1,000-yard seasons in a row? Not that matters for the playoffs, but I like all these Tampa Bay receivers. At first I had them at 4, 5, and 6. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, but I snuck Beasley at 6. So I like them all, but I don't like them as that pop. None of them have that Devontae Adams pedigree.
Yeah.
So they would be a great wide receiver too in my lineup, but to supplement one of those other guys like Diggs and Adams, they wouldn't be my moneymaker, in my opinion.
Meerkat, are you seeing a moneymaker from those guys or not this week?
So I liked Godwin and Evans a lot. I have them at 3 and 4, pretty much interchangeable. And you brought up a point about Jair Alexander. He'll probably be on Godwin. Not going to lie, I haven't watched enough Packers defense this year to see if they do a true shadow or if they just kind of play it out, however it plays out. But if they do, do a shadow, I can see Alexander on Godwin, and then you get Kevin King on Evans because King is a little bigger. He's 6'3". So that's a matchup to watch for. But even with the injuries, I'm not really scared off either of these two. I think they both get their targets. It's just if they can convert on them. And then Antonio Brown, don't hate him. I have him at 8. He's, him, Mecole Hardman, Cole Beasley are all kind of moshed together. Same with Lazard for me in that little grouping there. But if I don't love Antonio Brown, I might play Scotty Miller in my GPPs, but
Sure, yeah.
yeah, if the safe play I'd say would be Godwin or Evans. Just gamble.
Yeah, and they're the same exact price on FanDuel, so or not same exact. I'm sorry, they're $200 difference in the 9-player lineup. Not sure what they are in the 5, but I imagine they're only like $500 off. To be completely honest, so really not a lot to help you choose. Usually, I just default to the cheaper guy just because in the name of value, that's what DFS is all about, is finding value. But to me, there's not a whole lot like separating them. If it comes down to a dollar a salary crunch, that'll decide who I play between Evans and Godwin. At this moment, I do have Godwin in my lineup. I think he's just the more complete receiver, and so just from that feeling myself, that's the way I would go. Do either of you guys have any more piece you want to make with the wide receivers here, or should we move into tight end?
I have nothing else on the wide receivers personally.
All right, Meerkat?
If he's healthy, I love me a good revenge game. Hate the guy, but take a look at Sammy Watkins. If he's healthy.
Okay.
My friend. Okay, so story time. Like 5 years ago, I was in the Bills store, and I texted my group chat, Chris, John, Matt, Joe, Noah. I texted them, hey guys, should I get a Sammy jersey or a Sean McCoy jersey? And I couldn't decide. And they were like, you don't already have a Sammy jersey? And I was like, no, I just don't like the player that much. And they were like, well, you got to get him. It's your last name. And now it's like I got it customized at the Bills store, and I feel like an asshole because those are the worst kinds of people. As someone who used to work at the Sabres store, if you have your own last name on a jersey, okay, I'm not going to tell you how to have fun. Never mind. Tight ends. Tight ends this week. I mean, is there... can either of you tell me why I shouldn't just put Kelsey in and forget about it?
No.
Meerkat?
It's like I said last week, Kelsey's just the true anchor here. I want to not play Tanyan because I want to say he's inconsistent because he kind of is, but he's the second safest option on the board if you're not going to play Kelsey. And I mean, he is so much cheaper. It's insane. Every tight end is. Kelsey's at 8,000 on DraftKings, which is more. He'd be the second highest salary wide receiver at 8,000.
Same on FanDuel.
Above Tyreek Hill and Diggs, which is nuts. And so Kelsey's the safest option, but if you want to avoid that, hit Tanyan. I hyped up Gronk last week. He did nothing. I might still take a shot here or there, but Cameron Brate is a guy I like this week kind of as a sleeper tight end. He's cheaper. He got 5 targets last week, 4 catches for 50 yards. He's always been a red zone guy in his career. This year, not so much, but he's still going to get those looks. And if, Gronk's showing signs of action, can't trust in him anymore. And Brate at 3,000 compared to Kelsey at 8,000. Let's you have a lot of fun in other spots.
I mean, play devil's advocate, I guess. Milano wasn't in the lineup when Kelsey went for 2 touchdowns against the Bills. Is that enough to make you maybe want to go down to Tanyan, Chris?
I noticed that Taron Johnson was playing a lot of shadowing on Mark Andrews last week,
and Trey was on him quite a bit too. So
I think that we're gonna key on the tight end this week. I mean, it's not enough for me to not pick Kelsey just because of that boom aspects, and he's the guy for Patrick Mahomes. I would honestly put him as a duo ahead of him and Tyreek Hill. So I think that we're going to be ready for Kelsey, but it's not enough for me to not pick Kelsey.
Yeah,
a full health Bills defense is pretty scary in the playoffs. For me personally, but it's not enough for me not to pick Kelsey.
Yeah, I mean, we did a bang up job on Mark Andrews last week. Like, really kind of took him out of the game. Milano had a ridiculous pass breakup on 3rd down against him, which is exactly what we missed from Matt Milano. Bills are undefeated with Matt Milano in the lineup, as we already said this year. So I do like limiting Kelsey, but that being said, if we limit him, he's still probably getting at least 15 fantasy points. So there's not a whole lot that like if you really think that Robert Tonyan on FanDuel, they say that Tampa Bay has the 23rd ranked defense against tight ends. I remember last week I was big on Jared Cook because of that. So if you want to go Tonyan, I completely get the logic, but I would probably save that for GPP and not cash games just because it's a much bigger risk. Kansas City, they've struggled against tight ends. Do we want to make a case for Dawson Knox?
I don't hate Knox. It's kind of like a Bright thing where he's a little bit cheaper than Bright, just 200 on DraftKings, but it's an inconsistency thing there too, where he's almost touchdown reliant. He's had decent games where you look, he gets targets here and there, but does he always convert on those targets? The past 2 games, it just he's got 4 catches on 5 targets. The Miami game before that, he had 8 targets, only 2 catches. I love Knox. Not trusting him in this slate.
Mm-hmm. Great shirt on the Trainwreck Sports store. Maybe not as great of a play as it would be on FanDuel this week. Chris, you were going to say something about Knox there?
Yeah, he didn't play against. I think he didn't play against Kansas City.
I think you're right.
I don't think he played, so it could be a secret weapon. Who knows? I would probably play. I have Tonyan ahead of Knox.
Yeah, of course,
to save money.
Mm-hmm.
And in the one of the whole points of the DFS games is to pick people nobody else picks.
Yeah.
So if Knox goes off, and you have 5% of people picking him, you're in great shape. So I think that I would honestly pick Knox. If I'm trying to save money, I pick Knox over Tonyan.
And last but not least, here, defense. Do either of you have a strategy for defense this week that is not just don't play Chiefs or the Bills?
No.
I just can't do it. Meerkat, what about you? Are you probably going to the Bucs or the Packers, right?
I don't hate the Bills defense this week. I really don't.
Wow. Are they the cheapest option on DraftKings? Because they are on FanDuel.
They are the second cheapest, just 100 more than the Buccaneers, who I want no part of. I think the Buccaneers are going to be the worst defense this week, and they're priced right on DraftKings, in my opinion. I really am going off the notion Mahomes isn't going to be 100% in this game. I really am. I don't like that. I want the Bills to beat the best, to be the best. I love that mantra. I'm 100% one of those guys. Mahomes is going to play, but I really don't think he's 100%. I do like the Bills to win this game. And like I said, the Bills defense is prone to giving up a bunch of yards, but they have been coming up with key turnovers recently. A lot of makeup plays coming from this defense.
Yep.
And I like it. I like the flukiness. I like their luck behind them. Shout out to Warren Sharp. Luck is a football factor, statistic with defenses, and the Bills have benefited greatly from that. I have the Bills as my number 1 defense this week. That's a bit based because of the price tag. None of these guys are really that far and away a better option than the other, in my opinion. I like the Packers second. I don't love the Chiefs, and I hate the Buccaneers.
See, I don't hate the Bucs this week, but the game for them would have to go a very specific way, where they shut down Aaron Jones, which I think they can do, which I think they will do, honestly. Then will that translate into the passing game? Will Aaron Rodgers still be able to pick them apart? Probably. So I think the Bucs are a solid gamble in a week where every defense is kind of a gamble. If Chad Henne's starting, the Bills are easily the number 1. That's no question.
Oh, yeah.
But if Mahomes is, then it's a little. The turf toe is just weird. I'm shocked that didn't get a bigger storyline until today when Sal Capaccio tweeted "Hey guys, you should be worried about the turf toe."
No, if you watch that Browns game, there were plays where 100% you could see it affected them.
Yeah. Chris, anything to add on the defenses here?
I like the Bills as a sleeper. I still do have Tampa as my number 1 still, just because last time they played Green Bay, they trashed them.
They did.
Yeah.
Not that has anything to do with the playoffs, but if I'm going to go off of
the one sample size we have,
and that's what I tend to do. So I do have Tampa as number 1, Green Bay number 2, but I think that I could sneak the Bills at number 2. I could sneak the Bills. If Mahomes isn't 100%, I could live with that.
Yeah, I mean, my mindset when I opened the slate earlier today was just on my FanDuel app. I was like, okay, I'm going to fill out everything and then defense last because there's literally nothing worthwhile here. Like during the regular season, that's generally my mantra, but sometimes there is a bad defense like the Vikings from this year playing the Jets or something stupid like that. Like that's just something that you want to lock in this week. To take your pick, we're all probably going to be wrong. Both games could go over, and we could have 2 shootouts this weekend, which is a nightmare, but also a blessing for fantasy players. So hope you guys are ready. We'll do our locks, and then we'll get out of here. Meerkat, start with you. Who is a lock or a stack that you are making sure, like one player or a stack you're making sure is in your lineup?
Stack I love is Rodgers, Lazard. You go very safe, a little more expensive with Rodgers.
Yeah.
Stack him with Lazard, save yourself a bit there. Obviously, Rodgers, Devontae Adams is a lot sexier, a lot safer. That's an absurd amount of money, and I like to play a lot of tournaments. So Rodgers, Lazard stack is safe to me and very interesting. I'm going to be playing a lot of that.
All right, Chris, what about you?
I'm leaning towards, just to make it more interesting, Josh Allen and Cole Beasley. I mean, Diggs, obviously, but to make it more interesting, I'm going to go with Josh and Cole.
And mine, and I am not exaggerating here, if you're doing a 9-person lineup for FanDuel and Mahomes is playing, pick 4 players each from the Bills and the Chiefs, and then pick a defense that's the Packers or the Bucs. Just get the max limit from each team. Like that's it. What do you say, Chris? Sorry, Zoom makes the audio chop out, and I can't hear you.
Like 45. It's going to be like we got to score 40 points if we're going to go with a fully healthy Mahomes. So.
Yeah, Meerkat, do you have anything? We'll finish this here. Do you hate that strategy, or do you not hate that strategy?
No, I don't hate that strategy at all. I think it's going to be a big game. I love Buffalo's offense in this one. And even with a hampered Mahomes, they're still going to put up points. They have such good playmakers. Andy Reid is the best coach in the NFL, in my opinion. Sorry, Billy. And, yeah, it's going to be a hell of a game. I really have been a little all over the place with it. And today have fully bought into the Bills in this game. So I don't hate that. I think Josh Allen has a huge day. Like a lot of us think Chris was talking about it. He has a career day. I don't hate that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to wrap my head around what I think that game's going to be. Kevin and I are having Matt Perino on the cap tomorrow, so we're to preview the Chiefs game. So I got to figure out what my prediction is by tomorrow at 5 p.m., just like you guys all got to remember to tune in tomorrow at 5 p.m. for the Crowd Says podcast. Kevin Masseri, myself, Matt Perino. Also got Podcast Palooza tomorrow night. Also got Happy Hour Hoops tomorrow night. Also got Friday Night Lights Friday night. It's a big week for Train Rope. We got a lot of stuff coming for you. It's going to be a great week. Get your lineups in, and good night,